Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever, wherever you're watching this. My name is Marcus Octavius, and welcome to what is surely to be one of my more hot button commentary topics. Um, in case any of you have or have not watched television in the past few weeks, there was a little incident last night, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, the original reason I was going to cut this video was for the 2022 Upstate Music Awards. Now, before I jump into this, I want to say something uh, personally from the heart. I'm born, raised, and live in Greenville, South Carolina all my life. Excuse me. And the concept of one band, let alone many bands, that are able to make a living in a small southern town and be recognized for it and they not be a cover band were so far beyond anything I could comprehend that the fact that there was an Upstate Music Awards show, I didn't laugh, but I kind of cocked an eyebrow, cocked a head, and was like, well, damn. But I'm glad that my little Hamlet has turned into the little engine that could. For the record, it was usually held at a small venue, and apparently there were so many people interested in coming, and the turnout was so positive that they actually moved it to a mid-sized theater here in town called the Peace Center, and they were going to have it in the smaller theater, which is called the Gunther Theater. But then the Peace Center contacted the organizers of the award show and said, based on the tickets, we actually cannot fit you in the Gunther Theater. So we're gonna have to put you in the big venue. Um, and they were very nice, very respectable, very responsible, and it just goes to show you that if you hang tough with something long enough, the rewards and dividends just pay off. The award show itself had some pretty standard issue type awards. They had a best music video, best new artist, and even an artist in the year who I'm going to get into in a minute. But they also had some very, uh, I won't say localized, but very specific to the area awards. Things like best photographer, best live act, and the 864 award, which for those of you who do not know, 864 is the area code for the majority of the upstate of South Carolina, and it's an award given um, to people who demonstrate outstanding character, philanthropy, and compassion for the upstate South Carolina scene. And actually, a fellow I know, John Hoyt, shout out to him, actually won the award. And he does love the upstate scene. He does love the music, and he loves the atmosphere. And if you ever are in Greenville and you have the opportunity, he's a part of a band called Hot as a Pepper. They're a bit of a party band, kind of a swing deal going on. Give him a check out and check out his band as well. But the artist of the year turned out to be a brother, and it turned out to be a rapper, Shylan Flowers. And I have to say that when he walked up on stage, he had perhaps one of the more interesting looking coats I had seen in a long time. Um, but fear not, intrepid music listeners. I will be going through the entire roster of nominees, listening to the music, and some of these people, perhaps even all of them, will make the playlist in the near future in some way, shape, or form. It was an excellent night. If you are local, I highly recommend it. It's a good way to gauge what's popular and what's not in the local area. Um, it was just one of these things that I'm glad I got some energy enough to go and just bear witness to. And it reaffirms my faith that trying to make a go of this in this area can reap some benefits. Now to, how shall we put it, bigger and better things. For those of you who have been living under a rock for, say, the past 2 days, and no, that was not a pun intended, the Oscars were last night. And an incident happened, and I'm just going to spit it out as it happened. Chris Rock was on stage, and he was getting ready to announce the nominees for the Best Documentary Award. And he made a statement towards Jada Pinkett Smith, who is Will Smith's wife, as far as her head was shaved. And he made a joke, and I'm not going to repeat the joke on here, but he made a joke. And initially, and I will cop to this before anybody says anything else, I will cop to this. Initially, Will Smith did laugh at it. But then he saw his wife's reaction. And I think at that point he understood, okay, this is something that I shouldn't be, not only should I not be laughing at, I probably should do something about. To say the bare minimum is that he did do something about it. To wit, he promptly walked on stage, and there's no other way to put it, ladies and gentlemen, he slapped the living hell out of Chris Rock on live TV and walked back to his seat and repeated some very passionate words. And I will not repeat those either. Some very passionate words from his seat to Chris Rock, who was still on stage. I'm going to read something that I posted on my Facebook, and I want everybody to sort of understand it and digest it for what I'm trying to say. I want to say something about this, and I want all, capital ALL, of you to read it, digest it, and think on it, please. Let me be clear. Could he have taken a more civil stance? Absolutely. Having said that, I do believe that a stance should have been taken. Given what we know about so-called invisible illnesses nowadays, people need to understand, among other things, that certain jokes are not going to fly now. And honestly, comedians are the most guilty of this. Chris Rock is one of those guys that's always ride the edge, and this time he rode a little too close. And as a side note, the one group of people cheering the most for Will are women, especially black ones. Now, I'm not saying that there are bigger fish to fry here in the world, because there are. But speaking as a black man, this is a big thing for us. The layers to this in our community are a real thing. From mental health, the hair of a person of color, the respect Will showed his wife that is at times lacking in the black community to begin with. These, among many others, are conversations that need to be had in our community. Would I have picked the Oscars? Hell no. Would I have picked those two? Hell no. I still agree that escalation in general is a problematic thing, but sometimes, just sometimes, you gotta slap a fool to make a point. As I understand it, Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the actual name of what she's stricken with, but it is an autoimmune disorder. And part of the reason I understand it is that she was shaving her head in part for that, and also, I believe it was also in part for a role. Um, Chris Rock, in and of himself, I'm sorry, he was wrong. That was not the platform to make those kind of jokes. And Chris was somebody who it's oh god, how do I describe this? I'm not going to sit here and say that Will handled it best, but in fairness, I don't believe that this would have been a thing if Chris had chosen a much different path to take. I've heard a lot of people who make an argument like, well, it's a joke, it's this, it's that. I believe that it was in poor taste. I believe that it was wrong. I believe we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation if Chris Rock had chosen a different path. I don't believe that this is a matter of having thick skin or thin skin, excuse me, or any kind of skin of that nature. I do believe that the comedy style and jokes that may have been done from the 60s up to the 90s you can't do anymore. Where that line is drawn to where a comedian is still a comedian and not quote unquote edgy is not for me to say. I'm not a comedian. But I do believe that somebody like a Chris Rock who has done a documentary about black people's hair would try to be a little bit more respectful about Jada. Now, excuse me, there are people who say that he did not know that she was stricken with this autoimmune disease, illness, whatever you may want to call it. I find that very hard to believe. However, if it's true, then that's fine. That still doesn't excuse him for what he did. I was talking with my brother about this. Many of you know him. And I said it is perhaps the purest example in terms of Will Smith's retaliation. It is perhaps the purest example of a necessary evil that I have ever seen in my life. Having said all that, Will Smith did win the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in the movie King Richard. Another fellow recipient of that award, and somebody who I think Will Smith looks up to a great deal, was Denzel Washington, who, as I understood it, pulled him to the side and had some words with him and tried to equal parts console and calm the situation. This is definitely one of those issues, ladies and gentlemen, that is probably going to be talked about for a while. What I will say is that there are no easy answers for this. A lot of people say that violence is not justified. However, I'm going to close this particular portion with this. Unfortunately, we live in a world full of bullies, and I am not directly calling Chris Rock a bully. But please understand the context in which I'm speaking. We live in a world full of bullies. You can try to talk to a bully. You can try to reason with a bully. But at the end of the day, the majority of bullies only stop when you meet them eye for an eye. Now, having said all of that, there was reason to be happy at the Oscars because a number of awards were handed out to not only people of color, but people of particular groups. One is this movie Coda, which I understand was a Sundance darling, if you will, and it won Best Picture, and it was the first movie where predominantly most of the cast used sign language. Most of the cast was deaf. And I believe one of the actors in it had picked up a Best Supporting Actor award, and it was the first one handed out. And I hope I'm using the words correctly. If I'm not, please let me know. To a deaf performer, a deaf actor or actress, since Marley Matlin in Children of a Lesser God many years ago. So congratulations to them. Ariana DeBose, who won for Best Supporting Actress, as I understand it, is the first openly LGBTQ performer, and perhaps one of the few actresses of Latin origin to also win the award. And as a special nod, and this was a particular movie that I wanted to see, Questlove, famous for his band The Roots, who also serves as band leader and drummer for The Roots on Jimmy Fallon, won for Best Documentary. The name of the movie escapes me at the moment, and I was in too big of a rush to write it down. I apologize. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to say. I don't even know how to say it. This has definitely been an eventful 24 hours, and it has definitely been eye opening in a number of ways. For those of you who may be watching this on Facebook, the video will be dropping tomorrow on YouTube. So if you don't watch it tonight, please look for it tomorrow. Um, I hope you all of you enjoy the playlist. A brand new playlist will drop promptly Saturday at 8. Please keep your eyes out for it. Other than that, I'm Marcus Octavius, and have a good evening.